Wow, this was loud. Anyways, thank you so much for coming. Today, I hope we're going to have a lot of fun. I want to make this panel a lot more interactive, a lot more engaging, a lot more fun. And the premise of it is very basic. So, when we started the company, Virool, I think my biggest concern was how do I figure out how to make videos go viral on a web? How do I get people to share the content? How do I get people to watch it? How do I get people to engage with it? And when we were kind of looking at metrics, I think we were looking at the same data that everybody else was looking. When we would promote videos through our network, we would look at things like clicks, impressions, shares, views. But we felt like something was missing. And that part that was missing was the emotion. Before people decided to share any video, they need to really connect with it. They need to really identify with it, and they have to click share. Before anyone decides to watch the video, it needs to be served in the right environment where people can actually see it and they want to engage with it. They don't want to skip this ad button after 5 seconds. Whenever people see a piece of art, a video, the music that plays behind it, the story that goes along with it, needs to resonate with them and be very deeply. And I'm super, super excited to do this panel today because we've brought in together some of the best people in the world, truly, who can talk about this subject. We have everyone from Chingy, who's a multi-platinum selling artist, talk about the art of music and how it needs to resonate with people, to Hassan, who won an Emmy Award, who's an Emmy Award-winning creative director. And so I'm super excited to have them all on this panel. Right now, we're going to show you guys a little video. It's a contest that we ran across different marketing teams over the last year, where we wanted to select the best creative team that really came up with a concept that had all the different elements of viral video. So we're going to show you that video just right now. And at the end of this panel, we'll actually announce the winner. So let's take a look at the video real quick.
3, 2, 1.
Video advertising is rapidly becoming the most effective way to reach an audience. With music, motion, and sound, well-made video content inspires true emotion, connecting viewers with brands like none other. 1 year ago, Virool announced a groundbreaking campaign at Advertising Week. The mission: seek out the best video marketing team on the planet and reward them as pioneers in this new frontier. The winners will win a zero-G experience. At 35,000 feet above the Earth, they'll float, flip, and even eat as if they're in outer space. Press coverage included Adweek, Mashable, VentureBeat, Business Insider, and lots more. Teams had to meet 3 criteria. First, be a risk taker. Second, reinvent the video advertising experience. Third, be effective. Hundreds of submissions poured in from all over the globe, from massive agencies down to the smallest shops. Ultimately, one thing became clear: size didn't matter. It was all about the content.
I love Morgan Stanley for this.
This is a dance I've always wanted to do.
I'd chop black.
Periods don't have glitter in them.
10 finalists moved on to be judged by some of the most influential people in today's entertainment and marketing fields. Troy Carter, investor and talent manager for John Legend, Miguel and Meghan Trainor. Casey Neistat, award-winning New York-based filmmaker. Chingy, multi-platinum selling rap artist and actor. Ricky Van Veen, co-founder of College Humor, Busted Tees, and Vimeo. Mary Kim Novak, chief marketing officer at Rubicon Project. Jack Myers, a cultural, economic, and technology visionary. The videos were judged based on the formula for success: story, sound, and distribution. 1 year later, the results are in. This video captures it all. It made us laugh, it made us cry, and it went above and beyond the 30-second window, using the canvas of the web to capture the hearts and minds of everyone who tuned in. Virool is proud to bring you the most stellar video content of the year, content that truly goes beyond the view.
Don't worry, we'll let you know who the winner is at the end of this panel. Also, as you saw in the video, the winner, the creative team that wins this, they will get a flight on the zero gravity. And I have an exciting news. When you walked in, you should have gotten a boarding pass, and we're going to be raffling off one person in this room today. We'll also be able to join that team on a zero gravity flight. So I kind of wanted to give you guys a heads up on that. But now I would like to introduce the rest of the panel. So if we can get, I guess, a video rolling, introducing the panelists.
He is the CEO and co-founder of Virool, a leading video distribution platform that has promoted over 60,000 videos for 30,000 global customers, including Intel, Sony, Coca-Cola, Samsung, Anheuser-Busch, and Mitsubishi. He leads the team in its mission to make advertising human with innovative and powerful ad formats that deliver video messages in the right place at the right time. Please welcome to the stage, Alex Debelov.
To the left of me, we have an extremely talented, very renowned AJ Hassan. It's really a pleasure to have you on a panel, but also if we can show kind of an introductory video of AJ.
As VP and Creative Director for the last 16 years at Leo Burnett in Chicago, she worked on a full spectrum of amazing brands, including Starbucks, Diageo, Delta Faucets, Secret Deodorant, and Esurance. She helped create the vision for the Always Like a Girl campaign, challenging gender bias on a global scale, which captured over 90 million views worldwide and collected over 100 industry awards, as well as started a social movement where girls everywhere reclaimed the insult and showcased the amazing things they do like a girl. Please welcome AJ Hassan.
To the left of AJ, we have Corey, the marketing genius behind all the branding at WestJet, I could say. Maybe to a degree, but yes, let's play a little clip about Corey.
As coordinator of special events at Canada Olympic Park, he worked on 25 World Cup competitions, hundreds of community events, and the season 5 finale of The Amazing Race. As manager, sponsorship, and experiential marketing at WestJet, he oversees key partnerships, including the Toronto Blue Jays, Calgary Stampede, and numerous giving programs. He also launched the organization's acclaimed WestJet Christmas Miracle videos, which have gathered 41 million views and 2.5 million social shares. Please welcome Corey Evans.
Next we have my good friend and a very, very talented multi-platinum selling artist, Chingy.
Discovered by Ludacris while touring with Nelly, this St. Louis rapper kicked off his career in 2003 with a massive hit Right There and went on to become a multi-platinum selling artist, releasing 4 studio albums and several top-selling singles. He's also made several TV and film appearances, including the VH1 reality show Couples Therapy. In 2013, he started his own music label, Full Deck Music Group, and is now touring the United States. Please welcome to the stage Howard Bailey Jr., better known by his stage name, Chingy.
To the left of him, we have Mary Kim Novak of our Rubicon project. Is one of our partners that we work closely with at Virool, and she's going to talk about distribution. So, Mary Kim.
For over 15 years, she has worked for many participants in the advertiser and buyer community, including 9 years at Microsoft as its global head of marketing. As the CMO at Rubicon Project, she leads the company's mission to evangelize the automation of the entire advertising ecosystem across all inventory types, ad units, and channels. Please welcome Mary Kim Novak.
And last but definitely not least, we have Bonin, who works at Mondelez, and he's definitely in charge of a lot of really great campaigns at Mondelez. And it's a great pleasure to have you on our panel.
He is Chief Media and E-Commerce Officer at Mondelez International, forging partnerships with industry's largest players, including Paramount, ABC, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. He is credited as the leader in partnering startups with brands and executed the first ever branded campaigns with Instagram, Foursquare, CoTweet, and Radian6. In 2013, he was inducted into the American Advertising Federation's Advertising Hall of Achievement and has been listed in Fortune magazine's 40 Under 40 and Fast Company's 100 Most Creative People in Business. Please welcome to the stage, Bonin Bough.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you so much. It's such an honor and such a pleasure to have all of you on my panel. And I would love to focus this discussion on this idea of, we're all familiar with campaigns, and we know what happens after the WestJet Christmas Miracle campaign goes viral. It's gotten hundreds of articles and millions of views. But what I want to focus this panel on is more what happens before it went viral. What was the creation process? What was the distribution process? What was the idea? And I think the goal of this panel is really to kind of reveal that, because if you understand how to create this, then all of you can go out and apply this to a lot of stories and brands you work with. So first, I'm going to ask AJ, and we've had a lot of discussions with AJ about this, but you worked on a lot of campaigns that not only the campaigns that you've created have a story behind them, and people don't really know that the brand gets revealed towards the end. And you have this really powerful emotion, I would say, a lot of your campaigns and a lot of different qualities that come through your videos. Could you tell me more about how do you come to an Always brand, and how do you come up with a campaign like a girl? Where do you identify what is important to their target audience and what is not? And how do you find which right qualities to go after when you create your campaigns?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think it's we're just in an interesting time right now in the industry, and we're seeing that storytelling is just as important as it ever was. It's just the medium that's changing and the way that we're telling those stories. And so, obviously, now more than ever, it's important for brands to relook at their brand values and their beliefs and come at, I think, the ways they tell stories from that lens, because more than ever, we're in people's palms, we're in their laps, and we're not invited to be there. And, and it's important that if we're part of those conversations, that we're coming at them from the things that we stand for and the values, and trying to marrying them with current conversations that are relevant to the audiences that we want to connect with.
Yeah. A lot of the topics, I think, could you tell us a little bit about the production process behind Like a Girl? Because you were telling us over lunch about this, and I thought that was the most fascinating thing ever.
Yeah, well,
It's real people, real emotions. It was like really like, and it was very authentic. It wasn't something that you just created for the brand. It was something that the brand actually believed in.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the root of a lot of the storytelling. I think a lot of the work we're seeing in the industry that's really resonating and really working across mediums right now, that's winning awards, but also that's really working with audiences and going viral, is there's a common thread of authenticity, and it's brands kind of wearing their hearts on their sleeves more and saying, okay, this is what I stand for, and this is why I get you. And you know what? It's kind of like friendship. It's kind of like, we talked about this at lunch, it's kind of like friendship. So it's about getting to know someone more on a personal level. We're saying, hey, you like surfing? I like surfing. Let's go surfing together. So it's about brands finding that connection in a really personal way that feels right for their brand and authentic. And so with Like a Girl, obviously this is a brand that has always been about confidence. For 30 years, they talked about supporting women in their confidence, and their product was really, really good at that. But it was very product-based, and taking that story to the next level is what they really needed to do with this younger audience, who they had a piece of data, which was sort of the spark. They knew for a fact that a girl's confidence dropped nearly twice as much as a boy's during puberty, which is pretty shocking, and that's a really important segment of girls who are entering the category. And so the question was, how can we really be authentic and meaningful in that conversation, and tell that story about confidence one level deeper than we have before, or take it beyond the product and talk about how the gender bias of what it means to do something like a girl, and kind of that insult, and how that kind of is telling girls, sending them a mixed message about what they think they're strong, and we're telling them they're not. Why are we doing that?
Yeah, definitely. No, it's beautiful. And I think like the biggest thing, and if you guys check out Insurance campaign or Like a Girl campaign, what you'll notice is the very first, like when you watch the videos, you don't know it's an ad. Like you don't understand that there's a product behind it. You just get so engraved in it. Like I guess like you get so engaged into the story itself that you only find out it's an ad towards the end.
Yeah.
And I think that's very critical, right?
Yeah, we were talking about this. Sometimes I was telling him that you'll see this later in your emotion scale, but there is a height in the emotion towards the end of the video where it all comes together, and the payoff of the issue and sort of what you stand for and sort of the point that you're trying to make comes together, and that's the highest emotion that someone has, and that's the right place to introduce the brand. The right place to introduce the brand, especially in these kinds of conversations, isn't to force it in the beginning and make it a title. In a lot of cases, again, it's a case-by-case basis, but I think more and more we have to be thoughtful and appropriate about where we come in as a brand in those conversations.
Absolutely. Great. Well, Corey, you're going to be the next one up on the on the podium. I think the thing that I personally like about WestJet. So WestJet is an airline in Canada. We were talking about this as well, and you guys compete with Air Canada in your market. And what really differentiated yourself in the audience was really strong marketing, and as related to online marketing, really creating really good videos. And a lot of people are familiar with your WestJet story, the Christmas miracle. It's where people get their, they tell the Santa Claus what they would like, and then they get these prizes at the end. Super viral video. But before that, you've created a ton of video content right before. Could you talk about like that process? So it wasn't like an overnight success. I'm sure you've tried a few things. Could you tell us about, I guess like what you learned in that process and before you created the Christmas miracle, and kind of how you came around doing that?
Sure, absolutely. We started our content probably about 5 years ago with April Fool's Day jokes. And of course, in Canada, there's two major airlines. And WestJet, whenever we come into a market, prices go down 30%. So there's a real affinity for the public for us versus the legacy airline. So they tend to like the stories we tell. They like to support the little guy that could. And so we started with April Fool's Day jokes, just telling, one time we announced that we were going to start pumping helium in our planes, and that would make them lighter, and then everyone would save money. And of course, the MC during the video starts talking in a higher helium voice, and eventually at the end they get the punchline. So we noticed that from an earned media standpoint, the media was really willing to talk about our stories on April Fools. So we decided we would try some things around Christmas. And we did a flash mob once. We sort of pulled it together, and it was right at the end of the flash mob craze. And we swore we would never do a flash mob. And in the end, we were putting it on YouTube, and the best name from a searchability standpoint was flash mob. So we did that. And then that really led up to Christmas, which we were most known for from a content standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. One other thing that I find really fascinating with WestJet is you do some co-branding, but you do it with very particular brands like Disney or Coca-Cola. And to me, these brands represent happiness, magic, surprise. And it seems like these are the qualities that came through definitely through the WestJet, the Christmas Miracle campaign. And can you tell me more, when you think about your brand, are these the qualities that you want to kind of portray? These are the things you want people to sense when they think of WestJet?
Yeah, absolutely. We, after Christmas came out, it was very flattering. We got a number of calls from a number of different brands, and they all wanted to do things together. And we would try to explain to them they don't need us. They can do their own stuff. They, anyone can get into the space, but they felt comfortable working with us because we had established ourselves. So it's very flattering when you're working with other brands. So we tried to choose like-minded brands like Disney and Coca-Cola, obviously both products that we sell and have on our airlines. And so we really found through working with them, we could tell similar stories that people would enjoy. But it's very difficult. I find doing true content is difficult. We actually started doing it without our agency when we first did. We went to a production company, Studio M, who's nominated for your award today. And we said we want to do things different. And when you work with other brands, it's actually very difficult to get them to give you the freedom. So we do work with other brands, but we do find when we work with ourselves, it creates a bit more freedom to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's probably also easier to tell your own story and not have to combine your story with somebody else's story and try to make like a very difficult story to tell, right?
Yeah, we shot a Christmas video in the Dominican Republic, and we had a lot of issues down there with customs and the weather, and obviously we built a village in a developing community where they don't have power 24 hours. And at one point, we couldn't get our things out of customs. We just locked ourselves in a room. We had a lot of discussions. Studio M went away, tried to find some solutions. We tried to. And in the end, we just did what was best for the project. And I think that's sort of what you have to be prepared to do. They say there's no such thing as reality TV, but in all our videos, we actually put our employees with real people in a situation, and we see what happens. And it's a little scary because we don't know what's going to happen. We just shot a video last week in Las Vegas, and we invited 150 guests to come off the plane and just give us 2 hours of their vacation. And we didn't know if they'd come or not, but luckily we had a great turnout.
Yeah, and you get pretty involved too, right? You were in the Christmas Miracle videos.
Well, it's sort of a joke because I was Santa Claus in the Christmas video, and I always say it's because we were too cheap to pay an actor to do it as a low-cost carrier.
Yeah, so I think the reason why I asked that is because it seems like the authenticity of these videos really comes through and people can sense it. And two, you don't need to have like a huge budget to create something cool. You could create something awesome through this. And in our contest, we had startups submitting cool videos that made it to top 10 finalists as well. Okay, cool. Well, next up is Chingy. My history with his music is I grew up in Rostov-on-Don, Russia. It's in southern Russia, a place probably most of you haven't heard of. But when I was growing up, when I was 10, 12 years old, I was actually listening to What You're Doing, chilling in the Holiday Inn, and right there. And the reason why I say this is because music, just like a great video content that brands can create in today's world, has the ability to transcend religion, to transcend boundaries geographically, can transcend different age groups, and can really resonate with people very deeply. And the reason why I was so excited to have Chingy here with us is because he can talk about the emotional aspect of music and how it can really connect with people and resonate, and how it can get people to talk and walk and sing about it. So my question to you is, how do you think about the emotion that you want to elicit in people when you create your next big hit?
Well, as an artist, I believe you got to be as organic as possible with your fans, when creating music. And so, me personally, I just try to come directly from the heart, you know what I mean, and conveying and getting my message across, whether it's, music, film, fashion, or whatever. And for instance, example, a song I got called Pulling Me Back. it was the #1 record on the charts for like 6 weeks. But with that record, I was in a real life situation, and it's basically about, you know, my youngest son's mother and what I was going through in our relationship with being on the road and everything and being gone, and, you know, coming back having to leave. And she kind of was taking it like, okay, I must be messing around on the road. I'm not there with her all the time and everything. And really, I wasn't. And so I wanted to come home, and I'd rather her embrace me with, like, you know, a meal, you know, embrace me with love instead of embracing me like, you know, I'm messing around, this, and that, creating an argument. And so I think people, you know, fans on the outside looking in, deal with those same relationships going through their everyday life. You know what I mean? So I project my emotion, and I try not to project just get one emotion from the situation. I gather multiple emotions from the situation and try to project them into my music the way the fans on the outside will see it, how I see it as well, because I know they go through the same thing. Like, I have people come up to me all the time just off that one record being like, man, that song helped me with my relationship and what you was talking about. And so, you know, I know that they feel just like I feel in the situation. So I pull emotion out of my heart, you know, and from my everyday scenarios and situations. And I know people from all walks of life can feel that. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of how I pull emotion out of me, put it in a song, and to get emotion from the people. You know, just being real, just being authentic in my approach.
Absolutely. Oh, that was well said. I guess one of the, you know, a lot of times when I listen to music, there's this particular kind of music I listen to when I go to the gym. There's a very different type of music that I listen to when I'm on a date. And music has this amazing ability to, or at work when I want to focus and do some particular work, you know, I listen to classical music. The music has this ability to put us in a very particular environment and place. When you create music, do you look at that and you say, okay, my next song will resonate with this type of people, or I'm going to go after this type of fan with this type of song? How do you think of that?
Well, I think you have to be very honest in yourself about your music. Be very honest, because life today we deal with, you deal with things that's fake. You got fake things you deal with. You got real things you deal with. And I think with the fans, you got to be as real as possible, because if they see that you're not as authentic, you know, in your music and in your everyday life, you know, they won't take too kindly to that. You know what I mean? So, and with me and my brand, I'm more driven and bold, you know what I mean, in my music. And so I try to present that as well. So when you listen to a song like Right There, it's in your face. You know what I mean? I like the way you do that right there. Switch your hips when you're walking, let down your hair. You know what I mean? It's bold and in your face. And I know people, you know, people appreciate that authenticness and that realness and how I come off. And so, you know, that makes it good.
Absolutely. No, it's well said. Well, thank you.
I gave y'all a couple lines too, you know, it's all good.
Yeah. Mary is from Rubicon Project, and we've partnered with Rubicon Project because as Virool and paying attention to this emotional aspect, we always look for what are the different ways we can innovate on our distribution that doesn't create the most intrusive ad experience. The problem with today when I go to certain video sites and I see an ad, sometimes I want to just skip it because I'm there to see another video, and a lot of times I just feel frustrated that I have to watch another piece of content, and that frustration gets associated with a particular brand. We became really aware of this as we started to kind of create an emotion aspect, and we tried to innovate and develop ad units and ways we can distribute video that engages the user, doesn't frustrate them, and does it in a very unique environments. And what we've been able to do with Rubicon Project is create a Facebook-type experience where, you know, the video does, as you scroll through the article, the video will start autoplaying but doesn't have a sound on, and if you're interested in engaging, you can engage with it, and they've been fantastic to work with. Could you talk about more, I guess, Rubicon is known for working with a lot of different sites and a lot of different publishers on helping them monetize their properties. Could you tell us more about, you know, there's this huge issue of ad blocking, there's the different ways of ads. Could you talk more about what are the new ad formats coming out, and what are the publishers saying? Are they interested in this kind of stuff? Are they not? And yeah, what are you guys seeing as the new trends in the industry?
Sure. I mean, I think, you know, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much. And
following Chingy is always so intimidating. So thank you for that.
Oh, no, thank you.
But it's really interesting time right now. It's an exciting time for a creative and from a storytelling level. And publishers ultimately want to garner big audiences, right? I mean, they want their content to be read, and they need the support of the advertising to support the monetization of their publication. What's so exciting about where we are today, and it can be intimidating as well, is the fact that there is so much innovation. And what we're seeing coming from your inline unit is a perfect example of that. What we're seeing coming from the Amobi Exchange, from all of these great, that's based in technology that allows the publisher to have a really great partner and to have the creative to be able to have that platform in order to be able to allow these videos that we're talking about today to allow that emotional connection through. What I find most amazing about when we speak to the different publishers is everybody is very willing to innovate. Especially when they see the numbers in return. And so, for example, going back to what we're working on together on this one ad unit, it solves a problem, right? And that's what the publishers want to see, right? They want us to see moving forward in order to give better experiences and to be much more, agile with our marketing. So what's a win-win here, or a win-win-win with these new ad units, is that the publisher is getting more monetization. I mean, let's be very frank. I mean, pre-roll is disruptive, as you said before. Something like inline, which is what with your unit is, it gives an entirely different experience within contextual. You don't have to wait for a video and be interrupted in a pre-roll or post-roll. You're being able to see this right within the text, very similar to what Facebook is. So it's Facebook for every other publisher. Experience, which is fantastic. So it's a win for the publisher from a monetization level. It's a win for the brand because you're able to use that first-party data coming from the publisher and the first-party data coming from the brand, and being able to iterate and get better and better at what audience you're targeting, how are you targeting, what's resonating, when is that emotional connection coming to that. But then ultimately, it's a win for the consumer, and that's why it's so important to the publisher, right? Because ultimately, the consumer is able to now have a really positive experience seeing amazing storytelling that happens to be an ad. And I think that's the real difference, and that's where, you always want to make this little kind of juxtaposition between, like, it's the ad tech leading the storytelling, or is it it's kind of creative versus ad tech. They were trying to play that story in Canel, and it's not. Actually, it's going to be when these two fully come together, and it's things like you all are doing and everybody on the panel is trying to do that really is going to bring that together.
Yeah, I think the biggest learning for us was, and the kind of opportunity where we've been able to kind of come forward, is as the brands and creative geniuses are starting to create these really cool stories that are no longer 15 or 30 seconds that were created for TV in the past, but now becoming 2-minute, 3-minute long stories, and are really designed for the social web. So designed to get people to share, designed for people to engage with. They need to innovate. We needed to innovate on the distribution methods, because a lot of the existing video distribution methods are really kind of like TV. You go to watch a video, you have to watch an ad before it. And we decided to kind of come through and do that. And as far as I understand, you guys have been very happy, your publishers have been very happy with the solution so far, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we work with, some of the biggest publishers, around the world, and, they love to see that innovation, and they love to see those type of results. So it's been a great partnership. Let's keep it going.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Bonin, how do you say it? Is it Bonin or?
Bonin, yep.
Bonin, got it. One of the coolest campaigns that I've probably seen in the recent history was the Honey Maid campaign. Basically, the premise of the campaign was you guys stood for interracial marriages and same-sex marriages, and it was a very powerful campaign that you've created. A couple of questions I have regarding that campaign is, one, there was a backlash that occurred, and what happened was a lot of people who had negative sentiment about this were tweeting negative tweets, and you've taken these negative tweets, rolled them up, and spelled out the word love with all the negative tweets, which was kind of turning something negative into something positive. Plus, you printed out all the positive tweets you received, and it was tenfold of the negative ones, which was a very beautifully executed campaign. The questions I have for you is kind of around, were you anticipating that backlash? I guess what went through your guys' minds when you decided to go on this campaign? Because you knew it was a risky proposition. You knew it was gonna get some people agitated. And as a brand, it might be hard to say, oh, let's go piss some people off. They'll never be our customer, right? And so I want to kind of understand, did you anticipate this backlash, or was it in a moment when it occurred that you guys decided to take? And how did you convince yourselves that this would be the right time and the right opportunity to take such a bold stance to execute on such a bold campaign?
Yeah, of course. First of all, good afternoon, Adweek. How are you guys? Good? Yeah. Come on, we need like more. I wanted to be interactive. Let's get some excitement here. And we're in this room downstairs. It's pretty. You guys look great. So, you know, the Honey Made, that piece of work is a spectacular piece of work. It's Gary Oshifskin who runs the brand, who really pushed to have that piece of work done alongside Jill, who runs equity for us. So, I don't want to take credit. But what I think was amazing about that was that it was really about showing wholesome families. So it wasn't just same-sex, it wasn't just interracial, but it was kids that had a single parent, or kids that were kids of divorce that now had two moms and dads. Families that we're not looking, that no longer just the traditional family is what exists in the US, right? And it came from a deeper insight, which is nobody's talking to more than 50% of the population in terms of families. And how do we take a stance that allows us to kind of dig on this emotional insight, which is big. And that's why I think what we've been saying is this is all based on those deep-rooted emotional insights. We understood that there could potentially be conversation that was negative around the position that we took, and we were ready for that, right? But I think what we would never be ready for is that ratio of 10 times the number of people who had negative tweets actually had positive ones. And that's, I think, what made the culmination of that story so strong, is that, yes, there are people who are questioning whether this is wholesome, but at the end of the day, so many people and so many Americans really believe that this is kind of, or agree that we need to be showcasing families. The thing I find the most interesting about it is that we stand on stage and we're talking about a graham cracker. I mean, at the end of the day, this is literally a graham cracker that had the #1 shared commercial the week that it was aired. Like, it's a graham cracker. And so...
I had a pad.
Yeah, fair enough.
I had a FemCare pad.
Fair enough. All right, fair enough. You win.
Thank you.
We should put them together. No, never mind. All right.
That was
there's got to be some collaboration there.
10,000 feet.
So that's what I think. It's interesting. How many people have seen, I think that going back to insights, and that's what makes these things travel, how many people have seen the Uber ad in New York when they were running against de Blasio? Show of hands, right? So there's one piece in there where they show a dark-skinned guy, and he says, I can get a cab when I need a cab. For anybody who is a dark-skinned guy who has tried to hail taxis in New York, understands what he was saying. And I was talking to some folks, and I said, you know what? That Uber, for me, it reminded me that insight. And Uber is the single biggest reason why I don't feel discriminated against in New York. And finding those insights and getting to that depth, that's what creates great brands and stories that people share. So anyway.
Awesome. Well, okay, that's really great. The question I have is about authenticity, right? Like one of the things with AJ we were talking about before is that she worked on the insurance campaigns, she's worked on all these campaigns, but the products and services themselves thoroughly believe in their messaging. For example, insurance, you mentioned that they provided the same-sex couples, even in states where it was illegal to get married, they were still providing them ability to get insured as if they were a legal marriage, correct?
Yeah, that was a huge insight. Again, to Bonin's point, and even what Chingy was talking about, emotions and being authentic and why art resonates, because what we do as advertisers is more and more art, and because that's how we engage people in the most relevant ways. And so we have to be thoughtful about art, and art's authentic, right? And so to your point, the insight for Esurance that we really hooked onto, this was a time we knew the Supreme Court ruling was coming out and overwhelmingly going to be in the favor of marriage equality, which was a remarkable time that was going to change the landscape. I mean, the conversation would go on after that, but it was a big move forward. And there were brands already starting to come out and talk about this in support. I think the difference with Esurance that we saw the opportunity is that this is a brand who had for 2 years already been insuring couples because of their presence online and giving them protections in states where it wasn't legal to get married. And they weren't talking about the story. They weren't talking about it. And it's like, why aren't you talking about it? This is human. This is so relevant to this audience, and it's so meaningful, and they want to hear this story, and it's really important, timely, obviously, to the topic that was happening. So we identified that incredibly human insight, but it was, like you said, backed up with a product. it was something incredibly valuable to that community that, that needed to be shared. And so when we reframed that story, we did it in a way that really was inclusive by talking about dreams and how everyone has a dream. And tried to, again, really bring people into that conversation in a way that wasn't about politics or religion, but really about the ability for anybody to dream about their wedding day. So.
Yeah. And I guess to follow up on that, I think when a brand has a very authentic message and they delivers that in their products or services, I just think that the response that the audience has to any campaign is exponential because they see that it's not bullshit, it's not just a marketing ploy, it's real. And could you talk about that, like a message of being real? Like a lot of the campaigns you guys do, is it just a marketing ploy or is it actually really about being real?
I mean, first of all, I think the beauty of what you just said is that it's art, but it's also humans that are creating these brands. It's not like Oreo wakes up and says, "Oh, let me create myself an ad," you know. So there's humans, and they believe in the businesses that they're creating and that they're bringing because it's not just their friends see these, their family eats these, you know, and so like I even look at Oreo. So the work that we did in Oreo when it was the Oreo 100 Days, where we start off with the rainbow cookie and then we showed culture through the eyes of Oreo every single day. I think what was interesting there was that here was this cookie that everybody had grown up with. It was iconic, but it wasn't an icon anymore. And it was stuck in a world where it was, if you weren't 8 to 12 or you didn't have kids 8 to 12, it could mean absolutely nothing for you. And we had to figure out, because everyone on that business wanted that cookie to be able to talk to a broader audience. And so here we thought, well, you know the cookie. Can the cookie actually showcase culture in a way to you that's playful enough? And the whole idea behind Oreo is seeing the world through the eyes of a child. So how could Oreo then show the world every day what was happening in the world through the eyes of a child, through Oreo? And I think that, finding those insights, and again, the people that are creating these things really believing in what the potential of these brands can be, and now, Oreo is now, I would say, kind of in a totally different place than it ever was, 3 years ago. So I hope that answers your question, but I think it's, I think the great thing about it is you're talking about real humans creating real human communication now.
Yeah.
There's so many brands like that, though, right now that I think we're in this transitional time where they're icons, right? The Oreos and the Kellogg's and the P&G's. And there are these great brands, these legacy brands like Tide. And I think what's shifted is that because of the delivery systems, because of the fast-moving nature of our industry now and the type of stories that are resonating, people really need to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
It's almost like we need to go through the Mad Men era again. We're doing brand-level advertising. We do need to reestablish what these brands stand for and what they mean. We've got, for a long time, the tunnel went down to a triangle where we were focusing so much on the delivery of the products and the functionality of the products and the new and improved and this and that. And that's lost, that stuff's important, but it's kind of lost any meaning, especially to millennials. Well, that's a great new feature, but what are you really doing for me? Why are you in my news feed,
But I think one of the challenges, so there is a renaissance. I firmly believe there's a renaissance right now. But I think one of the challenges there's so many different canvases to paint.
Yeah.
And I also think we have to understand, how do you storytell across, how do you build big, new, iconic brands, but across all these different channels? And I actually think it's a beautiful challenge to have, but we still haven't really truly figured storytelling out across all of these things. I think artists have probably done the best job today, to be honest with you.
And it's some of what we were talking about at lunch. I mean, it starts coming back to, you almost have to start where the creative idea comes from. We always talk about it's television first. In a long way, it's now really starting to be mobile first creative ideas, because you're really going in a lot of ways to one-to-one, not one-to-many.
Or creative ideas first, right?
That's what I mean, creative, mobile, creative first, but not to the masses, kind of more to these smaller audiences, and then they can build, or whether it's by platform, but I think that's some of the difference, because you're having such a one-to-one relationship with these, that the brands can speak so much closer to them. And the distribution, obviously, that's where this programmatic world does help to a certain degree, because you can find those and identify them and get to them that much quicker. So, I mean, it's exciting in that sense for these iconic brands, because you can have a whole new conversation that before.
Right. But it's about getting back to big ideas, right? It's about what do brands stand for, what are the big ideas of the brand, what is the meaning of the brand, and why are they connected to these audiences, and what are they delivering to these audiences in exciting, interesting ways that are relevant to me, and how we do it and where we do it is the challenge, because now there are multitudes of ways to do that.
I think you also have to find what's your brand story and what you can legitimately story you can tell.
Yes, yeah.
For example, when the Supreme Court ruling came out, we had some quick meetings about what should we do as an airline. In Canada, it had been passed 7 years ago.
Right.
So we just said, that's not our story to tell right now. We over-index in that community as it is. But it's really finding a story that fits with your brand and then telling it, not trying to be something you're not.
And I'm gonna chime in on that because going back to my song Holiday Inn, years ago, my management tried to reach out to Holiday Inn about doing something for us with a corporation and my brand, and I don't really know how that went. I think, I don't know if they were interested at the time, but I happened to create a friendship with the brand manager. Today, I created a friendship with the brand manager, Christian, and it's like when you bring up Holiday Inn these days, my name is like kind of associated with that now. So I've been everywhere I go, people always say that, Holiday Inn, Chingy. And so Christian, she understands that, that Holiday Inn, Chingy is kind of associated. And so now, we've been into some negotiations and talking about possibly my brand being a part of their brand and coming together to do something. So yeah, that's very important.
Do you think about yourself as like, you said your brand. Do you sit back and think about like yourself as a brand and what you stand for? I mean, are you, like, is that?
Yeah, well, I do sit back and think about that. And right now I'm in the midst of, I haven't been as consistent over the years. I've been in and out with my music, so I'm trying to rebuild my brand. But I look at me as a brand, with my music. I have a Chingy for Change Foundation. I do film. I do a lot of stuff. And so, I look at myself as a brand.
Like a brand
I try to be a positive influence,
Yeah.
and I look at myself as a brand, definitely.
All right, we have about 10 minutes left. We do have quite a bit of stuff still to go through. So if we, right now we're going to show you a video. We created this technology that allows us to tap into people's webcams with their permission, of course, and allows us to collect data on their emotions as it happens. What we do is when we promote different campaigns, we'll run a small test of maybe like 1,000 people, but the data that we get from these tests actually tells us a much larger story, a much richer story, because it gathers people's emotions, not after the campaign happens, how did you feel about this, but as it happens at different seconds. And here's a little clip showing you what the technology is. Please.
When people watch video at home or on the move, they become emotionally engaged by the content. At Virool, we can collect their subconscious emotional responses by simply using their webcam to measure more than 10,000 points on their face. We send this raw data in real time to our servers to identify 6 core emotions. From there, you can get real-time insights into the emotional response your video is eliciting from the people watching it online. You can see second by second exactly how your audience feels about your video content. It's what we call EIQ.
And so right here, we show you a graph. These are the 3 finalist videos. We had about 250 teams from around the world, everywhere from Dubai to Brazil, submit videos to participate in our contest. And the most interesting part about the engagement graph is that it really shows you the engagement of different emotions that people experience throughout the video. The 3 finalists that made it into our finals, actually all 3 elicited very, very strong emotions. And you can see that the engagement throughout these videos was phenomenally high. Next. One of the things, I guess, that's very, very interesting, and this is kind of going to AJ's point of view, this is a campaign that AJ worked on. It's an insurance campaign that we talked about. It's the one that supports the same-sex marriages, but the interesting part about it, you don't realize it's an ad until the very end. A lot of clients that we worked with will promoted over 60,000 videos, and what we've seen is a lot of clients will come in and they'll have a logo appear in the first 5 seconds because they think that's the way to get their branding and justify their ad spend. But what we see is a lot of people kind of get into this motion of, oh, it's another ad, I don't want to see this, and they kind of tune out or they close out or they leave. With the insurance, what they've done really, really well is they've built in the story that takes you on a journey, it sucks you in, And if you look at the happiness graph, which is what is being displayed on the screen right here, the moment that people feel the happiest is where the insurance brand gets revealed. And this is the moment at which people actually shared the campaign. So not only did people feel very passionate about the topic at hand, but they actually felt very, on an emotional level, connected with the brand itself and wanted to go out and share it. So it's very, I would say it's a really good insight. And one thing I guess you can take away is that it's really about kind of getting people engaged and also not trying to over-promote yourself if you want to create a very deep connection.
It's about being appropriate, right? It's about being thoughtful and appropriate.
Yeah, exactly.
The right place and the right time.
Another thing that we noticed, and we could go to the next one, it was another finalist video. A lot of people think that in order to create viral content, they need to create something funny, or they need to maybe create something that elicits certain emotions. But we also found that playing on other emotions like disgust actually could work. One of the finalist videos, it was a video, you could check it out, it's Hello Flow, Hidden 5. They created this video, and you could see that the disgust graph went up. It wasn't overly disgusting that you wouldn't want to share it, but it was disgusting and it was kind of funny that you would want to share it with your friends. And as you can see the disgust graph grow, that's the point at which people shared the video. So when you go out and create different creative concepts, you don't always have to resort to the simple stuff like humor. You could actually think of other things and other emotions that elicits people, and it could create the same trigger of sharing and taking the post-action after watching the campaign. It doesn't always have to be funny.
I'm sorry, you said that's the point at which people share. So are you actually tracking that when it gets to 37%, that point in the video, people hit share?
Exactly. So we track every time. So that's a heat map. Sorry, I didn't explain that really well. We track all the mouse clicks and mouse movements as they happen over the player itself. And as you can see, the heat map is over the share button. And if you look at the emotional graph that happens during that time, as you can see, the disgust part actually goes up. And I think there is also a happiness graph that's not being shown here that also goes up during that time because people find it humorous, but at the same time disgusting.
How are you tracking disgusting? How are you tracking disgusting and humorous? They're giving itself?
So basically, when we tap into the facial recognition, it allows us to track it. And because it's second by second, we can overlay it with other data and really get a complete picture.
Did you see this?
Next. And now we're going to present the winning video. This video created the biggest emotions, and I'll explain it after it. So let's play the video itself because we don't have too much time. Sorry.
You both wrote down you'd like to spend more time with each other. Would you like that?
Yeah.
If the sky's the limit and you could do anything together, what would you do?
I want to have a dance class with him and surprise Mom.
We want to help you do that. But the catch is, you have to start today.
So let's start from the very top. 6, 7 goes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, good.
As a parent, you find yourself doing crazy things for your kids. We wouldn't have it any other way. They won't be kids forever, which makes today that much more important.
You gotta this is a 1 minute video, and I think for the ones I've seen it, like Chris over here, she started to tear up a little. The 4.5 minute long version, that's the actual video length of the piece that won. And we can go to the next graph. Obviously this is actually a really interesting insight. So we had 5 different judges judge the finalist videos, and we didn't use the emotion as part of the judging criteria, but when we looked across the data and looked at the video that was by far the most engaging, it actually aligned with the judges' votes. So while they were using kind of their gut to make a decision on who's going to be the winner, you could actually see from the engagement graph that the video that elicited the most emotions, or that was by far the most engaging, was this Quaker video. Next slide. And one of the coolest things in the 4.5 minute version is that the mom, she goes to the concert, and there's this like sense of buildup that gets built, where she's looking for her husband, she doesn't know where he is, she's calling him, and you can see the kind of the sadness, or this kind of like, oh my God, where is he? It goes up, and before that, they show that he's very busy and he usually doesn't interact with his daughter as much, and so there's a sadness that goes up, and then when he walks out on the stage and people realize what was the big reveal, the happiness takes over, and that was the moment where a lot of people were also tearing up and seeing seeing that, and you can see the engagement grow, the sadness to happiness graph kind of overact, and obviously the sharing occurred in that particular moment skyrocketed. So it was a really well-executed campaign. It brought together really deep emotions, and Quaker, the winner is here, Lindsay and Mike. I would have to have you welcome to the stage. So, I mean, you guys can, yes, come here. This is for you. So you and team of 12 are gonna go on a zero gravity award. So this is really, really exciting. Thank you. Hold on, let's put it to the side real quick. We'll leave it here for you guys to take. But I wanted to ask you guys two questions. One, Lindsay, this is a question for you. I guess you can take a seat.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, Mike.
Thank you, sir.
And I apologize about that, Bonin. Lindsay, you guys have done a lot of TV spots, and this was very different than a TV spot. Can you tell us, like, why did you decide to do this, and what kind of drove your brand to do this?
Yeah, so 2015 was a big year for Quaker Canada. We moved to a master brand strategy, moved away from the product spots, which you kind of talked about earlier. But we really looked at social and digital as a way for us to continue the story that we're telling on TV. And TV still plays a really large role. We're a big brand. We've been around for 138 years. But we know that our key target of mom is busier in the metaverse. She's spending more time online. And we really wanted a video that could capture her attention. And we wanted to build something authentic. We talked a lot about that, and real. And we wanted to leverage a real family who was relatable and who she could really connect with, to really bring to life our insight around Good Night Starts Today, to encourage Canadians, or since it's kind of gone a little bit more global, it seems to be a little bit more of a human truth, to do more of what matters. And so as we look at these long-form ads, it's a really great way for us to help build that emotional connection in ways that traditional media don't allow you to do. So, we definitely don't see us completely moving over to digital video, but it definitely supplements and helps us to build the story that we're starting on TV and continue it online. So. Awesome. Well, thank you.
And Mike, so Mike actually worked on the WestJet Christmas Miracle campaign, as well as the Quaker campaign. And if there is a renaissance happening where marketers today are moving away from creating what they originally used to create for TV, 15, 30-second spots, to now the web, the shareable content, Mike is the Leonardo da Vinci, I would say, of our times. And I wanted to ask you a question about how do you go to brands like WestJet or brands like Quaker, PepsiCo, and educate them on creating this new kind of content?
For sure, and just want to say, obviously, this is a big team effort. I appreciate the shout out, but including my colleague Brad here, who actually wrote the recital this here. And I mean, it is definitely an education process, and what we try to advise people is that content marketing and social stuff is a marathon, not a sprint. And you got to get on the course at some point, and if you're not on the course yet, you're already behind. So it's time to get out there, give it a try. And the great thing about digital content is that it's its own kind of testing ground. It doesn't have the same stakes as a multi-million dollar media buy where you're putting all your eggs in one basket. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to play around with content, and it's very important for brands to just get in the space, figure out what's authentic to them, and have the ability to try things and fail. And I think, and kudos to Lindsay for saying yes to this idea, because I think, it was interesting, the earlier slide you had up that talked about the division between emotion and reason. And yes, at the core, the advertising experience has emotion at it, but I think when we're all sitting in boardrooms, everyone's got their reasonable hats on, and they're thinking with reason and making decisions with reason. And so that's often why sometimes the decisions that are made of what to produce is more conservative than maybe it should be. And so, all you can do is point to past success and share some ideas and try to tell them a story in the boardroom and get them to buy into it and feel good about it, and
yeah,
roll the dice.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. The last.
I'm ex-PepsiCo. Can I get a ticket to space too? Can I just say one thing though?
Actually, you will, Bonin, you will.
I thought what you said was super important. You said no more multi-million-dollar campaigns. I think though this can solve that. So you know that this works. Now you can spend $1 million in front of it. And I don't think we do that kind of optimization around content. Anyway, sorry.
I like
Go
you.
ahead.
You're great.
Done. You're hired.
Thank you.
So now, as we promised, we give you guys a boarding tickets when you walked in here, and one lucky winner will get to also join Bonin, Studio M, and Quaker team on the zero gravity flight. So Bonin, because you gave you up your seat, you're going to help me draw the winner.
All right.
We have numbers here for the lucky winner to the zero gravity. So
Who wants to pay me to get their number drawn? No, I'm just kidding. All right. You want to read it, or you want me to read it? And it's number 28. 28, stand up.
28.
Come on, don't.
I'll stand up then. I'll take 20 now. Draw another.
All right, draw
By the way,
another
you should find out who's 28 because that just sucked. All right, drum roll, please. No, there we go. Number 40.
40.
Come on, guys.
All right.
That sucked for them. I'm just a bad drawer. I guess that's what the problem is.
Or
Did somebody else
super
draw
lucky
it? Right? All right, here we go. Number 7.
All right, I got it. No.
Oh. There you go.
Chingy. Yeah, that's good.
You guys like, oh my God, Chingy just did
I was like, wow, that was
See?
Seven. That's my lucky number, actually, 7. So there you go.
Kara over there. All
right.
Will help you.
See you in space.
Well, everybody, we ran a little bit over the time, but hopefully you found this panel extremely good. I personally want to thank you guys so much. It's such an honor and such a pleasure to have had you all here, and thank you for joining us.
Congratulations.
Really appreciate it.
I loved it. I tried again.